I've got this baby snake who never comes out of his hide, and I want to interact with him, but I like to do choice-based handling, and he never chooses to, I want to be friends with him, but how are we going to be pals if he never... Welcome to the Green Room. I'm Bob Bledsoe. This is Kodiak, not the snake that we're talking about, but I do have a very shy baby snake, and I know a lot of you do too because I've been hearing from you lately. Now, I did a video a while back on how to deal with a very defensive baby snake, and now we're going to talk about how to deal with a very shy baby snake, and specifically my approach to choice-based handling. For those of you who don't know, choice-based handling is where we allow the animal to choose to be handled. We're not forcing everything on them. We're letting them make some choices. And as a result, we get snakes that are super chill, confident, and well socialized. So lately, I've had some questions from some new keepers who want to do choice-based handling, but their snake hides all the time. They don't ever get an opportunity for the snake to choose to come out. They want to be a good keeper. They've heard that choice-based handling is the way to go. But how are we expected to socialize a snake if they never choose to come out of their hide? Hey, Kodiak, what are you doing? You moving right into my face? I get it. I totally understand. And I'm in the same predicament. Sort of. I don't have just one snake. I have about 30, and there's always somebody that's willing to come out and hang out with me. If I only had that one snake, though, I'd be very excited to work with the snake, and I'd probably be getting pretty anxious about the fact that I'm not able to. So let's talk about choice-based handling. It's a great thing to do because the snake is choosing to interact or not interact. It's a no-stress way of doing things. I do choice-based a lot, but I don't do it 100% of the time. And honestly, I don't think 100% choice-based is practical for the average keeper, especially if you just have one snake. Those of you that are doing 100% choice-based, bravo, that's amazing. But I think there's a lot of keepers who go, I don't have the patience for this, I'm just not going to do it at all. But it's not all or nothing. Hey, what are you doing? Don't crawl in my mouth. But it's not all or nothing. You've got some choices. You gonna be okay there, Miss Dolly? You doing all right? Are you on my mic? Can you be off my mic, please? Thanks. As a general rule, I do as much choice-based handling for a snake when they're young. And once they've learned to trust me, it's then not a big deal if I go in and take them out of their cage. In fact, Dolly here, who I've had since she hatched out of an egg, was sitting in this box when I opened her cage. And so I pulled her out of that box. She has no problem with that. She's happy to just explore and try to take my microphone off. No problem. So for a lot of my snakes, choice-based handling was really important in the beginning of their lives to learn that I'm safe. That way, if I have to go into their cage and pull them out of a box to do a video, they're not stressed. They know I'm safe. But I still have certain things that I do with my adult and subadult snakes that reinforces the fact that I'm safe, aside from choice-based handling. So if you want to see a video on how I interact with my adult and subadult snakes, let me know in the comments. And if you all seem interested, I'll make a video on that. But let's talk about this baby. This is Han. You guys named him, actually. You might remember the video where I hatched a one-egg clutch. This is him who came out of it. And because he was a solo baby, the overwhelming comments were that I name him Han Solo or Han or Solo, something like that. So I chose Han. Thanks for your suggestions. But the thing is, this little baby isn't nearly as brave as Harrison Ford's character. I'm used to baby snakes who eventually will come out of their hide, usually midday they'll do it. They come up to the lip of the tub. I can open the tub a little bit, show them my hand. They can choose to come out and tongue flick onto my hand. Eventually they do that enough times to where they're crawling out on my hand. No big deal. But he's only been to the lip of the tub once that I've caught, anyway, that I've seen since he hatched. So I've caught him a couple times out of his hide, and that gives me the opportunity to just put my hand in the cage away from him, and he can choose to come up and tongue flick on my hand if he wants. But that's only happened twice, and this is something that needs to be repetitive. The point of that little exercise, by the way, is that he feels a little bit of stress because the big monkey just stuck his hand in his cage. He can come up, check it out for a minute, and then the monkey retreats pretty quickly. I mean, not a fast movement, but pretty soon after putting my hand in there, I retreat and then close the tub, and that's kind of a neutral experience. What he thought was going to be a bad experience turned out to be neutral. But again, he's only done it a couple times, and we need repetition with that kind of stuff. So let me show you how I add in some low stress handling sessions so we start to get him to do this kind of thing. Hey everyone, Future Bob here. I'm just editing this video and I'm so distracted by the snake in the background, and I want to talk about this for a moment. And we'll do that while we scroll the Horde of Keepers over on patreon.com/greenroompythons. Check that out. You can join for free if you like, but you can also subscribe and get a whole bunch of benefits. But so the snake in the background, in case you don't know, is Maya, my black-headed python, and she is hungry and wanting to hunt. I mean, she's always hungry, but it's close to her feeding day, and she sees me standing there, and she knows that I usually can let her out. As long as the other snakes are back in their cages, I can let Maya out. The reason is that black-headed pythons are snake eaters, so I don't want her meeting any of my other snakes. So she usually comes out almost every day if she's not digesting food or in shed. I just bring any other snake that's free roaming out into the room, and then once they're done free roaming and back in their cage, Maya can come out. But since I'm standing there, she knows that I'm the guy that lets her out, and so that's why she's moving around and being so active in the background, which is kind of cool because she's a lovely snake. Also in the background is Stella. She's in the cage right below. She's a super dwarf reticulated python, and then right below her is Echo. I think Echo and Stella both show themselves in this video. So that's the distracting stuff that's going on in the background. Anyway, I really appreciate the Horde of Keepers over here on Patreon. They're on one of the tier levels that's where they get a whole bunch of benefits, but they're also helping to keep this channel going and allowing me to make the videos that I make. Whether I'm traveling or home and making videos, they're the ones who are making it happen. Also, thanks so much to our channel sponsors, Black Box Cages, Lane Labs, the Royals Project, and Rare Genetics RGI. So if you are looking for caging, feeders, snakes, or shed testing, genetics testing, sex testing, stuff like that, you know, I would encourage you to support the businesses that support this channel. All right, I think we did that. Let's get back to the video. So I do as much non-contact socialization as I can, and I mix that with some light, careful handling. Now, here's what I mean by that. First of all, if I'm going in to remove a snake from their enclosure, the first thing I'm going to think about is where my hand and where the shadow of my hand is. I don't want any of that crossing the plane of their head. Snakes are very aware of what's going on above them, and if they see a shadow or a hand going over them, it's going to scare them. They're keenly aware of predators coming from the sky. All snakes are, regardless of the age, but especially baby snakes. It's almost like they had a buddy in the egg going, dude, listen, this is a falcon, and they are freaking hungry. If you see one of those flying over the top of you, you better duck and cover because it is not going to be pretty. So if you're not careful about your hand or the shadow of your hand, you're going to start your interaction with them going, oh my gosh, no. And that's really not a good way to begin things. So if I open his cage and I see that he's in a ball covering his head already, I can just reach in and take him out because he's covering his eyes. He's not going to be able to see me. If he's in a ball and his head is out, I'm just going to carefully come in from behind and pick him up that way. Now, in the rare occasion that he's not in a ball and he's leaving me some coils, I'm going to use a hook. Hooks are magical because they don't have any heat and they're just an inanimate object. Snakes know that, and it's like a branch picking them up. So this is a really good thing to use. You know, people think about using hooks for snakes that are bitey and super defensive, but for any baby snake, this is a lower stress way of getting them out of their cage than a monkey paw grabbing them. So what I do is just hook them out of their cage, and then I place them in my hand. There's no predator that treats them that way. So it still might be a little stressful, like what's going on, but at least you're not treating them like a predator, which is grabbing them, right? So I think it's important to remember that snakes, regardless of the age, can feel heat on their body. So they definitely can tell when a person is picking them up, or whether they realize it's an actual person or not, it could be a predator, is touching them or an inanimate object. And, you know, with my socialized snakes, I can show them my hand and go, hey, see, it's just me. And then I can reach under them and grab them and take them out, and it's no problem. But for a non-socialized snake, there's nothing I can do. I'm a big, scary monster predator and they think they're going to be murdered. So if I can mask that by using a hook to take them out, it's really helpful. Once I have the baby snake in my hand, I'm looking for certain behaviors. And once I get those behaviors, I'm going to put that baby back in their safe den. And that's why I don't have the baby with me right now, because he was doing those behaviors, so I put him back. What we have as the surrogate baby is Pip, my pygmy python. She is a very well socialized young snake. She's a little over a year old, but she's smaller than a baby ball python. So we'll just use her for right now. Now, a lot of times you hear this rule of hold your snake for 10 to 15 minutes a day. Some people say an hour a day. Don't do that. But I don't even really like 10 to 15 minutes as a blanket rule, because what are you doing during that 10 or 15 minutes? Are you manipulating the snake all over the place? Are you passing it around to friends and family? Are you bringing the snake to a hot tub party? There's a lot that can go dramatically wrong for a baby snake when a kid is running around with it for 10 minutes. Or adults. We adults are stupid too sometimes. So here's what I'm doing with a shy snake for usually less than 10 minutes. I'm sitting relatively still. I may make some slow, deliberate movements just so that they get used to what that's like. But I mainly just want to be a safe surface for them to explore. Now, here are the behaviors that I'm looking for. I want the snake to go from being in a tense ball to being unballed and tense. And then they'll go from unballed and tense to relaxed and exploring. So that's slowly exploring with long tongue flicks. Sometimes there's also fleeing that could happen in that, where they sort of try to run, and then you just gently go hand over hand until they stop. They won't go for very long. But it doesn't take long, and eventually they realize that they're not actively being murdered and they can relax a little bit. Once I get that slow movement and the longer tongue flicks, I don't even know if you can see Pip doing this, but you get these longer tongue flicks. Well, now she stopped tongue flicking, but she was doing it. Then you can put the snake back in their enclosure. Now, Pip has been socialized since day one. She was never a shy snake, so I haven't had to think about it much with her. But for a shy baby snake, they can go from being sort of relaxed and exploring in those long tongue flicks to things going south very quickly. So that's why I want to move them back into their enclosure as quick as I can. I mean, not by making quick movements, but you go, okay, they're doing all right. Let's show them their enclosure. So then all of a sudden, their safe den is back in front of their face and they can choose to crawl in there. They might crawl in really quickly. They might crawl in slowly. And if they crawl in slowly, one would hope that their keeper would have the patience to allow them to get all the way in without touching their tail to make them go faster, because that startles them. The reason the snake goes faster when you touch their tail is because they're startled. And remember, we want to start and finish the interaction nicely. We don't want them scared. Now, the snake is going to feel a level of stress during the entire interaction, right? But there's an acceptable level of stress where they go, okay, this is kind of scary, but nothing happened and I learned from it. And then there's the kind of stress where they're startled, multiple times startled, or maybe there's one big startle that really freaked them out. And then all of a sudden that can be chalked up as a bad experience, right? So we want as many neutral experiences and good experiences as we can have. So that interaction might take 10 or 15 minutes, but there's a good chance that it's only going to take like 5 minutes. And when you're done, when you see those behaviors and the snake, let's say the snake tongue flicks a little bit for 30 seconds to a minute. That's really all you need to see. And then you can get them back into their cage. But again, that might only take 5 minutes, and the list of what you were looking for was handled, so they can go back into their cage. The idea here is you don't want to flood the animal and exhaust them into submission. This is what people are doing when they handle their snake for an hour a day every day. Not cool. You don't want to do that. So there's not a timer on these handling sessions, but you want it to be relatively quick, and you've got things to do, right? You've got a checklist of things that you're looking for. Also, you don't want to do this every day. For a snake like Han, maybe a couple times a week, right? And then I'm trying to do those non-contact socialization things as well if I get an opportunity to. But 2 or 3 times a week tops for a snake like that until they start to get a little bit more bold. And then I might go a little more often. I might move it to 4 days a week. but I still am not going to go every day with that snake for quite a while. I mean, most snakes you're not going to hold every day anyway, right? Because they're digesting sometimes, they're in sheds sometimes, and you know, they just don't want to be held every day. By the way, here's an important tip that I almost forgot. When you take the hide off your snake, don't sit there thinking about it forever and procrastinating, because as soon as that hide is removed, the snake knows that something just happened, and that's stressful. So don't make them sit there thinking about all the possibilities and getting more stressed, right? You just want to take the hide off and then quickly either use your hand if you have to, or a hook, and get them out and start your session. Again, no quick movements, but slow, deliberate movements so that it happens relatively soon after that hide was taken off. You know, baby snakes are little, and sometimes they just need to get a number of meals in them and get a little bit of size on them before they become more confident. But these are some ways that you can work with your snake while trying to do choice-based, and hopefully over that time they'll gain some confidence because of the work that you're doing, as well as them gaining size because you're feeding them appropriately and such like that. And sometimes you just get a little tiny snake that doesn't know they're tiny, and you get really lucky with a snake like Pip. You know, pygmy pythons, look into those. They're not all going to be like Pip, but come on, pretty cool, right? With any species of snake, there's a whole spectrum that you could get. You can get a super defensive snake, you could get a super shy snake, and you could get a snake that's totally okay with being handled from day one and completely unfazed by humans. So I'm curious about this. Tell me in the comments where your snake falls on this spectrum of different behaviors and attitudes. So I hope this video helped. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Oh my goodness, look at that little snake. You're such a cute snake, little Pippers.